what's even more exciting today? We have the esteemed speaker, Dr. Goh Chee Leong, and a really exciting topic that I'm sure applies to all of us on the psychology of trust. Now, Dr. We're privileged to have Dr. Goh with us today, who is the CEO of the Health Education Group, which oversees Health University and Health Academy. Dr. Goh has been the course director of the psychology program in health, which was and continues to be to this day the largest psychology program in Southeast Asia. And under Dr. Goh's leadership, the psychology program in health has grown to be the Faculty of Behavioral Science. And he has been involved in numerous projects in Malaysia, including the Child Trauma Response Group, as well as prevention of bully intervention in Malaysian schools. Now with the Zulfahan case that recently broke out and caused so much shockwaves throughout the nation, I'm sure many of us will have many questions surrounding the area of bully prevention intervention. So anyway, without further ado, I'm delighted to invite Dr. Goh.
Thank you, Sheree. After that Olympic introduction, I'm not sure whether this talk is going to be as exciting or not. I think they were all expecting some sports gold medalists to come out and share testimony. Alright, but look, it's lovely to be with all of you. Right, this evening I've been my first visit here, and I'm so excited to hear from pastors and leaders about the ministry you've been doing here and wonderful work. I'm so impressed by the place, the location, but also the fellowship that I've encountered here. Thanks for making me feel so welcome. So I'm here to share some thoughts and ideas about really, as leaders in different settings, whether it's in an organization, in a family, church, ministry, how we actually build trust as a culture in our team. So I'm hoping that some of the thoughts I share hopefully will be useful to you, given the fact that all of us play leadership roles in some way or others. It's not just people who are in formal leadership roles, whether it's in our family or society, all of us to some extent. We are dealing with people, right? They're working in teams. Okay? So I want to share what I call the 5 leadership pillars of trust. In fact, ironically, this was developed during COVID, right? So I remember that when we developed this was during pandemic. So the first few times I was giving this workshop to corporate leaders was through Zoom and Skype and Microsoft Teams, because all of us were locked at home. At that time, the challenge for many leaders was, now we're all at home, I can't see my staff anymore. And so leaders that were used to micromanaging, as in ronda around, I want to see, does everybody come to work? Are they all looking very busy? What are they doing every minute of every day? Many leaders couldn't do that anymore, right? Because we're all at home. And therefore, like it or not, they had to develop culture of trust. From the leader to the staff, meaning they had to start trusting their teams, because you cannot see them, right? And I think that was a good thing. Many organizations were forced to move to what we call outcome-based management, which is give them some freedom and space, for your team to do their work. And you don't need to look over their shoulder all the time, give them some room to do work. But today I'm going to talk about the other side. How do I, as a leader, create a leadership culture where my team members trust me? How do I build that trust? And that's so important because trust is the foundation for almost everything that is done in leadership. Now, just to use a corporate example, but this can be applied anywhere. When you think about what we do every week in team leadership, usually some of these, if you think back to the last 3-4 days, one of these things you have done, these are office issues, these are work issues. Same thing with ministry. It's about, my staff are not motivated, how do I coach them, come alongside them, motivate? It's about dealing with conflict. This member doesn't want to, talk to this member, okay, how do I go in between and help them? It's about, this staff is not satisfied with their job. They don't feel it's a good fit. Okay, how do I deal with that? All of these are what we call people management issues. And when you think about it, 70-80% of our roles as leaders is this kind of stuff. This is the stuff we are doing. Managing money, managing buildings, that's a different challenge, but in many ways, that's actually easier than managing people. And when you talk to most leaders in the work setting, they share their biggest challenges with people. But at the heart of everything we are doing here is trust. When you take away trust, if my team members don't trust me, none of this is possible, you see. So if they don't trust me, I can't be the mediator for conflict. If they don't trust me, there's no empowerment, there's no performance management, there's no agency, there's no teamwork, there's no nothing. Why? Because they're not listening to me. So I can say whatever I want, right? So whether it is as a pastor, as a father, as a team leader, as a CEO, whatever position you have, no point, right? If from the beginning of the conversation, you don't think my motives are good, you don't think I'm there to actually support you, you don't think I'm genuine or sincere, whatever I say also is no point. So I think that's the basis for this particular model of leadership, which is the fundamentals of leadership is how do I build trust? Okay? So we're going to look at 5 pillars of trust. Openness, growth, well-being, fairness, honesty. Now, because of time, I'm going to run through them very quickly, and later on we can have Q&A if you've got any questions about each of the pillars. Okay? So let's start firstly with number 1, openness. Right? And so I've put here there's a trust statement as an integrity statement. Trust statement is what I would like my staff or my team members to say about me. And the integrity statement is what do I want to say about myself, right? So in this case, what we would like our members to say about this is, I trust you enough to be honest and share my candid ideas and opinions with me. So do they dare be honest with me? Especially when my ideas may not be the same as their ideas. So when we're doing committee meetings and brainstorming and I think left, they think right, right? Do we have a culture in our workplace where people are not self-censoring and they're not being upfront with a leader about what they think is going on, right? So this is the first pillar, right? How do I create this environment where, my team members are going to call a spade, right? And if they think, hey, Chidong, I don't think this is a good idea at all, this is a terrible idea, right? It's like me saying, okay, I think we should move our HQ to PD. Why? Because I like the sea, And all of them are thinking, hey, this is not going to work out very well, right? Very few people are going to move from KL to PD to go and join this company, but nobody is saying anything, because everybody's going, boss, yes, good idea, very, So how do we create, change? The shift that needs to take place is from a culture of fear. Boss is always right. Say anything, gets scolded, put in cold storage, demoted, to a culture of openness. Let's be honest and open with one another. One of my mantras in the workplace is, I always say, look, you treat people like adults, they will behave like adults. You treat people like children, they behave like children. So there needs to be a maturity about the workplace. We're all adults. It's okay to disagree. We know you're not going to agree all the time. That's not possible. You put 3 people in a room, don't even talk 100 people in an organization. Marriage already, the husband and wife already are disagreeing almost every day, which is not a bad thing. We're just different. What to eat, what to do, what to wear. So any 2 human beings in the world, as a psychologist, I can tell you, you cannot agree all the time. That's not possible. Let alone in an organization where you've got 7 very intelligent, strong-minded people. Okay? So how do we create an environment where it's okay to disagree? Let's talk, let's debate, let's share ideas. It's okay, to put it out in the open. Okay, so what are the psychological barriers to openness? Now, this is my field of psychology. Well, one is insecurity. In fact, that's number 1. If we're very honest, most leaders, I feel scared if I allow dissent, if I allow people to speak up, if I allow people to disagree. Well, that's the beginning of the end. Right? This is the dictator speak. I want to control. I cannot allow my kingdom to be, as a king, I'm not going to allow it to be torn down. So, I'm afraid my staff are smarter, they have a better idea, it makes me feel inadequate. So I think, look, all of these are natural insecurities. We all feel this at some point or other, right? And these are things we have to overcome, right? Or it's impatience. Yeah, 5-minute meeting, let's quickly get it done. Lunchtime already. Is that familiar? Quickly already, 2-hour meeting already, quickly. Last attempt on the Jedi, everybody shut up, right? Just say yes, right? Anybody dissent, we're all given dirty looks, hey. Right? So the pressure is, just bulldoze lah. Right? Too tired already. And by the way, that's how companies make stupid decisions. Right? When you're wondering, how can 5, 6, 10 people who are so experienced and smart and everybody becomes stupid, sometimes in a corporate meeting room because of these dynamics, right? So sometimes it's faster, let's just do it. So we say it's a secure and courageous leader that allows that openness. So that's the paradox. It's not a weak leader that allows people to debate. It's actually the strong leader who is secure in themselves, doesn't need to have the ego, not afraid, who actually says, hey, let's talk. And fine, if you think this is a bad idea, hey, let's talk. Let's bring it down in the open. I'm secure in the position, right? I mean, this is what we call groupthink, right? In psychology, there's a social psychology phenomena called groupthink, where on the surface, everybody is agreeing. But inside, they're all thinking, hey, this this is the dumbest idea in the world, right? But nobody's saying anything. I think we all agree, as leaders, we don't want to create this environment, whether it's in our family, in our churches, or in our organizations. Right? So how do we create an openness? Second pillar, so first pillar, openness. Second pillar, the trust statement is getting staff to say, I trust you with my... Now, of course, this is an organizational example. You need to translate this a bit if it's a family or a church. But in an organization, it's, I trust you in my career growth and development. As a young professional or young working person, you as my boss, as my supervisor, leader, I trust you. That you're going to actually help me grow, progress, become better. That you're not here to sabotage me, you're not here to keep me down. You don't see me as a threat, you see me as an opportunity to pass down your wisdom and knowledge. The second pillar is growth, and the culture shift here is from a state of stagnancy in the organization. Nobody is growing, nobody is learning anything. I often say when I talk to team members, my colleagues, hey, you've been here how many years already? 4 or 5 years? How do you feel? I mean, do you feel that you're growing in this 4 or 5 years? Have you learned anything new? Do you feel that you're becoming a better lecturer? Of course, I'm in a university, so are you a better teacher? Are you a better manager, admin staff? And the answer is no, then hey, it's our fault, not your fault. Something is not quite right. What's happening in the organization if you're not growing? So how do we go from a culture of stagnancy where everybody is just there doing a job and we're all stuck there? We're not growing. So what are the psychological barriers? Sometimes it's again insecurity and fear. If I teach you all my Kung Fu master tricks, right? It's like the old Sifus, or I teach you all of my moves, then you finish me off lah. Right? Don't need me anymore. The company gets a cheaper version of me, dump me, replace me with you. And I understand the office politics, sometimes that's a genuine fear in companies where it's very cutthroat. But we always say, look, the purpose of leadership is to grow people around you. And anyway, look, if you make yourself indispensable, because you're like the chef in the restaurant that refuses to share recipes with anybody else, and therefore you're so important, right? Only you know it. You don't write the recipe anywhere now, it's in your head. And all of the sous chefs also don't know anything. Fine then, but you're stuck there. You do realize, it's not just your subordinates that are trapped. You are also trapped. You can't progress. And I can tell you as a CEO, then I can't promote you. So there are a lot of middle-level managers, they are there. And we can't promote them because they've made themselves indispensable. So even though there are openings, there are growth areas, there's new projects, all that, I can't choose you because you're stuck there. So of course, in a healthy, ideal organizational state, we are growing, there are subsidiaries opening up opportunities for growth. Grow lah. And therefore, when you are creating the talent around you, it also creates opportunities for you to also explore. And fine, even in worst case scenario, some companies I know practice up and out, right? Hey, look, if you're not the COO, then you go somewhere else. But in the idea, in a sense, even that you shouldn't be afraid of, because if you're the kind of leader that is known for developing talent, right? And you're the kind, your reputation is everybody around you in 2-3 years grows. You develop leaders. Which organization in the world doesn't want to take you? So even if there's no more space in our organization, because in the end of the day, it's a bit of a pyramid, right? Everybody else wants you. Because you've got that track record and everybody wants to work with you. Okay? Wherever you go, I'm sure you've seen leaders like that. Wherever they are, people are attracted. Young people want to go and work with them. Because I grow with this person. This person is generous in giving growth and advice. Right? So sometimes lack of urgency because board is not chasing you for talent development, but board is chasing you for money, right? In a whole company, hey, show me the money, where's the profit loss statement? And that's why good organizations now move to say it's not just about money, it's hey, have you grown the talent in your organization? Where are the young leaders? Who else have you started to groom for your position in leadership? That's why I think most companies now, the best practice when you become a leader is the day one of your leadership, the clock starts ticking. In 3 years' time, do you have 2 successes at least? Usually best practice lah. Not always easy, I understand. But that's the best practice. 3 years. So day one already, you're identifying who else can I develop and train. So that leadership pipeline, all right? So anyway, these are some barriers. In fact, Help University where I am, I mean, our mission statement is this whole rationale. In fact, I would argue the whole of the education industry, this is the mission statement. It's growth. It's not meant to keep the knowledge and expertise and the skills to yourself. I mean, if not, what's education? The whole idea of education is to give it away. Is to actually, share and promote knowledge and skills and expertise so that people can actually move forward. So one of the practices I think is really invaluable is minimum once every 6 months to have personal growth conversations with your team successors, future leaders. At least once every 6 months. If you can do it once a month, every 3 months, that's fine, depending on what your bandwidth is. How many people do you have as direct reports? I remember starting this maybe about 15, 16 years ago when I was a young leader. I benefited from having mentors, so we started this. And at that time, I was a bit crazy because we had 50 direct reports and my whole department, I used to meet with them once every 6 months. And I still have the Excel sheets until now in my computer, in my bag. All these meetings that I had with the young staff, with my tutors, with my admin staff, with my lecturers, and the conversation basically goes around, what do you want now, right? Where are you now in your career and professional development? Where do you want to be in 2, 3 years, 5 years, whatever time frame? And my job is, how do I get you there? My mission as a leader or a head of department is, how do I help you move towards what you want? And everybody wants something different. And some staff will be honest enough to say, well, hey, I want a job in Shell. I want a job in Accenture. I want to, in 3 years' time, leave help and go and join McKinsey. I said, great. Thank you for your honesty. So let's work towards that. What experiences do I need to give you to develop a resume and a knowledge base that you need in order to get that dream job you want? No problem. As long as 3 years you give me 100%, and don't complain if I expand you, stretch you. I'm going to be honest and critical in terms of your growth trajectory. But that's what you need. So the idea here is, it's an honest conversation, and it begins with, tell me, what is your trajectory? What do you want in what's important to you? And the more honest you are with me, then the more I'm able to actually help you. Right? So that's the building of trust. Now, by the way, this is a very important pillar. I mean, all 5 are important, but this is perhaps the most central, because once that relationship is built, meaning the moment I know you care about my career, you don't see me as a threat, I can trust you with my growth. A lot of other things become possible in the context of that relationship. When you give me feedback, I'm willing to listen. I'm not going to be defensive. I'm not going to be, hey, you don't know anything, this is not right, this is not, you don't know anything about me. It's going to be, I'm going to take that on board because I know the context is you're trying to help me. You're not trying to break me down. The feedback, whether it's difficult feedback or good feedback, I know comes from a place of you really want me to grow. You talk about the Olympics, it's like that. I mean, if I'm training you to win the gold medal in 6 years' time, we're going to have some difficult conversations along the way. If I'm your coach, it's not always patting you on the back and everything you do is fantastic. It's going to be a lot of critical feedback about, hey, you need to do this, you need to be fitter, you need to be stronger, you need to be good training sessions, bad training sessions. I'm going to give it to you straight in terms of, hey, what you need. I'm going to push you past the comfort zones, right? But you know that I'm not doing it because I'm some sadistic coach, right? Because I'm cruel, because I want to hurt you. You know that, hey, we both agreed on, you want the gold medal. My job is to get you there, right? And so let's work together, right? So a lot of this, whether it's performance appraisal, this and that, if it's seen in the context of an honest growth relationship, it makes a big difference, right? And I think in a lot of organizations, this is not there, right? There's this mutual distrust. You give me low marks because you don't want to give me increment. You're just finding some excuse to keep me down. You don't want to promote me. You don't want to grow me. So the moment that trust is not built, then everything else falls apart, right? The third pillar, well-being, that we look after them as people. And it can't just be numbers. I don't see you just as a number. I don't see you just as a data point, just as a KPI. So where's the humanity in leadership? So that's the compassion part. So moving from apathy as I don't care, just perform, you're just a number to me. You're just output, you're just what value can you add to, versus moving from that to, hey, you're a human being. We are human beings created in God's image, so I need to honor and respect that. So as much as Of course, you need to still work. I mean, having said that, this is not an excuse where you don't do work. You're not responsible. I mean, we're going to have some honest conversations if you're not doing your job. But at the same time, that's not disconnected from the fact that I still care about you as a person, right? But I think this one we know. I don't think I need to spend. I think all of you understand this. So what are the psychological barriers to this? Sometimes I don't care, or sometimes I'm narrow-minded. To me, health is just physical. As long as you don't lose a finger in the factory, or the ceiling doesn't fall down, or some horrible accident doesn't happen to you, fine, I've done my job as a boss. Right? But I mean, we realize that, okay, so firstly, caring is not a feeling, it's a choice. Sometimes I know you really want to just truncate some of your stuff. Alright? You may not be so happy every day. Like family members are same thing, right? We always say as parents, hey, caring is not a feeling, it's a choice. Loving your spouse is not a feeling, it's a choice. If it was a feeling, most of us would have killed each other already, years ago, right? Okay, so we say it's a choice, it's a discipline, right? To say, look, however good mood, bad mood, you made me angry yesterday, I need to put that aside, and this is a choice. This is a discipline of being a compassionate leader, right? So I think the other thing also is defining it in more holistic terms, from physical to more holistic. So for example, Maslow's hierarchy, this one is like, you learn this in Psychology 101 or Marketing 101. Basic human needs. So when I'm doing this exercise with organizations, I say, okay, you want to know what being compassionate, meeting needs? This is a good framework. From physiological needs, is there water or not? Can you get water in this office? How many minutes do they have to walk to get fresh water, clean water? Is there food available? Is there oxygen that they can breathe? What kind of environment? Is it safe? Or each time they go to the car park, everybody is running for their life because you have not provided a safe environment in your workplace, social needs, are there healthy relationships or people fighting all the time? Is bullying happening in the office? Are people being alienated because of race, because of religion, because of gender? What's going on? Are people welcome in the workplace? So social needs, esteem needs. So of course, recognition is important. Do people feel appreciated? Is this an environment where we give you the affirmation? Self-actualization, actually there was a lot of debate about what Maslow meant by that exactly. But generally they talk about optimizing your potential, right? So maybe that's tied to growth in pillar number 2. But just, whatever model you want to use. I think the idea here is, as a leader, I'm responsible for my flock, I'm responsible for my team. Creating an environment that people feel safe and looked after, and it's not just about you give the company, but it's about how am I making all of you feel? Go do your job. How do I create an environment where you feel safe? Okay, number 4, fairness. So this is about justice. This is about an environment where people don't feel that they are prejudiced against. Okay, so a few things here I want to share a bit more because there's a lot of interesting psychology behind this. From injustice to fairness. What's interesting is not all prejudice is conscious. So many of us, I think, would like to see ourselves as very fair people. If I were to ask most of you, or you ask me, very few of us would admit that, hey, I'm sexist. I got a bias against females, male versus female. Or I'm racist, there are certain races I look down on. Or whatever bias and prejudice. Most of us see ourselves as fair-minded people. But one of the things we learn in psychology is that, so whatever group, these are examples of prejudice, meaning that I have a negative thought or belief about you, not because I know you, but because you belong to a member of a social group. So I don't even know you, maybe you're new staff, but the moment you're female, okay, I've judged you already, because all girls are like that one, or all guys, okay, both ways also, right? All guys are like that one. I already know what's in your mind, right? I don't even need to work with you. Or it could be gender. It could be religion. It could be race. Malaysia, of course, this is a huge, big issue. Different organizations, both ways, being biased against certain races or religions or language groups. Sometimes same race, but hey, English speaking versus Chinese speaking. What accent you speak, straight away people judge you already. This one, speak like that one, we already know this standard. So you've not even gotten to know them, no opportunity for them to even perform or to show you what they can do in the organization. Immediately I sum you up already. And it could be even a place, where you come from KL, okay, which part? Oh, Kapong Jinjang, we know. Bangsa, we know. Yeah, I'm not going to say what are the stereotypes, you all know the stereotypes. right? Jalan, Bangsa, even in KL already, right? We all are already sum you up already, right? Yeah. So hey, let's be honest. If we uncover our soul and our heart, all of this have some bias or prejudice. And we were not born with it, by the way. I mean, all of this was what we call socialization. We picked it up, family lah, school lah, this, that, messages from the media. we somewhere we got it, right? And it could be even physical disabilities, body shape. There's a famous psychological study that showed when they did blind testing where they show you two resumes. Resume is exactly the same. Two candidates applying for a job. The only thing they changed was the photo. And one was somebody that's considered overweight, some is somebody that is considered underweight, and some is considered, okay, by standards, very attractive. Same resume, number of years of experience, university, all that. So they did a blind testing and hey, no surprise, you know what the result was? Did body shape have a role? 100% it had a role. People who were judged to be more attractive were judged to be smarter, hardworking, all of that kind of stuff. So these are examples. I've mentioned that a lot of prejudice may not be conscious. So I give you a few examples. Let's say I'm sexist, which I hope I'm not, but I'm using this as an example. Let's say my sexist belief is females cannot deal with stress as well as males. I don't believe that, by the way. I'm just giving you an example, okay? Let's say I'm a male boss and that's my sexist belief, right? Females are too emotional, cannot deal with pressure, guys are stronger. And then you say, no, come on, chill out, this is not true. I say, no. Got evidence? And then I look at this and I say, I've seen two of my staff, let's say, exhibit this. I look at the male doing this. What is my interpretation of the male's behavior? Hey, thinking hard. See, hardworking. I told you, right? They really love the company, right? Intelligent. I see the female doing the same thing. What is my interpretation? I've told you, breaking down. See? Little bit of pressure, they can't do it. So this is an example of what we call an illusory correlation. That it's confirmation bias, it's confirming. That I told you. So whether it's race, religion, this and that, I'm confirming. That's what human beings do. We are very good at just strengthening whatever bias we have. Look, I'm just asking us, we need to be a bit more open, honest with ourselves about what's going on. And another way to judge is, look at your behavior. So if I say, oh no, I'm not sexist, then they say, hey, Chi Leong, you work here for 25 years. You promoted 500 staff. 499 of them are male. Alright? One female. Let's look at your track record. You say you're not biased. Where? What's going on? So in terms of actions speak louder than words. Okay. I think one of the antidotes, therefore, to that kind of bias and prejudice is Ram Charan talks about. Look at the data. Sometimes when we promote people, when it's very subjective, therefore things like the race, how they look, they're very impressive, or the way they speak is so fantastic. And this, he's a management guru, right? And I remember one of the stories he tells was, in this company, they promoted this guy, and it failed, really, he was not qualified for the job. Then when they went back and did the post-mortem, why did we promote him? They realized they didn't look at anything, they didn't look at his track record. What he had actually done in the company for 10 years. It was all he's very impressive. There's some quality, he's got leadership quality. But when they actually look, it can do work or not. Right? So that's why we tell a lot of companies, hey, what is your performance management system? So at the end of the day, are you looking at impression or are you looking at, hey, what's going on? What's actually happening with this stuff? Now, I'm not saying you reduce a human being to performance, but when it comes to decisions about who to promote, for example, along with values, honesty, you of course also need to see whether they're doing work, right? Or whether they're just very good at managing bosses, and know what to say in meetings and all of that. The other example I use in terms of, we talk about justice and fairness, right? So let's say you've got a group like that. If I as a leader, slacker means not doing work, lazy. If I don't do anything, who is going to lead the performance? Exactly. So if I don't take action, who is going to lead? Not the people who are not doing work, They are very happy in this organization. And that's not fair, right? So sometimes I think the balance between compassion and treating people like human beings, but fairness in ensuring, everybody is doing their fair share of work. That's important. So one of the other mantras we say is, look, as a leader, you can't sit on the fence. You're not a spectator. You are the leader of this group. You don't make a decision, you have already made the decision. You need to intervene. I'm not saying you fire the two slackers. Hey, you have to intervene. Tell them, hey, this is not acceptable. Your teammates are doing 30% extra work because you're not pulling your weight. And that's not fair. They also have families, right? They also want to go home, right? So all of this, the idea of from injustice to fairness. As a leader, am I just closing one eye because I don't want to get involved? Or am I actually saying, hey, as a leader, it's my role to ensure that there's fairness in this world, that everybody is actually pulling the weight. Alright, last one. Honesty. We need to be courageous enough to have difficult conversations. That's not easy. This is the part of leadership none of us enjoy. We like giving the good news. Hey, well done, you're raised, you've got the promotion, well, you've done the job, you've met your targets. Here is a 50% pay increase. We don't want to be the ones telling them, hey, this is not good enough. This is not up to mark, alright? Duplicity is being two-faced. In front of you, I smile, hey, well done. Behind you, hey, this is a lousy stuff. What shall we do, man? I think we better find a replacement quickly. One of the psychological barriers being dishonest is maybe I'm afraid, if I tell the staff the truth, they're going to give me silent treatment for 2 weeks and don't complete the project, and I need them to work tomorrow. Maybe they leave. That's usually the main fear. Can't take it. If I'm honest with them, they'll just leave. Then how? Cannot replace. Sometimes it's the need to be popular, and we always say that's usually the main weakness as a leader. The moment as a leader, I feel I need to be loved by everybody. That's the end. And this is true, whether it's Christian leadership or any leadership, right? You look at the Bible, Christian leaders have to make tough decisions, man. Not always popular, sometimes they're so unpopular, right? To do the right thing for the organization, for the kingdom, for the company, for the team. So these are some of the barriers we need to overcome. But whether it's parenting or management, we say, you need to mean what you say. Like, people need to trust. If they don't trust me, if I'm not being upfront. Interesting study was done. Because we found that particularly in Asian countries, a lot of bosses avoid difficult decisions. Tai Chi around it, right? So this was a research. I show you the findings, and you can sort of judge for yourself. So they surveyed the bosses first, all these leaders. 80% say, my staff are not mature enough to take honest criticism. If I tell them, they're going to cry and go off and run and leave the company. 82% feel that their staff only want to hear praise and positive feedback. 75% feel that negative feedback the staff will quit. And 79%, this is quite, damning. They admit that they're not giving honest feedback. They're not telling you. Then they did the survey among the staff. This is really interesting. 85%, they know the bosses are not being honest with them. So this is quite funny, right? Both also know, so both are playing this game. One thinks, okay, I think I fooled them. The other group say, no, of course my boss is not being honest with me. 87%, now this is interesting. If given a choice, would prefer their bosses to be upfront and candid. This is interesting. And you think about it, most of us also prefer that. Now, nobody enjoys difficult feedback. Nobody wants to be in that situation where whether your senior pastor is giving you feedback, or whether your boss is giving you feedback, or your wife or husband is giving you feedback, or your parents are giving you feedback that are not maybe so pleasant to hear, but that's the truth. Nobody likes it at that moment. But if I give you a choice, either we give you the honest feedback or we keep quiet and you don't know what's in their head. Which one do you prefer? Even in marriage, if your spouse wasn't happy, you want them to tell you or want them to smile at you for 10 years, right? And then walk out one day and say, I've had enough really, thank you very much. And then you go, hey, you didn't warn me, you didn't know, no warning at all, what happened? I didn't know you were so miserable. So both sides are. The boss smile at you and then in 4 years' time you're replaced, or 4 months' time. Then you say, what happened? I thought you said, well, everything was okay, but sorry, you're not up to performance. I think the idea here is, it's a culture of straight talk, that trust, that courage to tell the truth, right? And this is one of the rules I try really to adhere to. It's not easy, but there's this rule of, hey, you work with this, I will never say anything about you that I've not directly said to you. That's difficult. Amen. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. But the moment we can live up to this, then you trust me, then there's more trust. Honesty, having said that, is not an excuse for being disrespectful. So I want to pair this honesty and straight talk with the rule that, look, the way we treat any of our colleagues should be the same way we want a loved one to be treated. If my father was working in this company, if my mother, if my wife, if my children are working in this company, how do I want them to be treated? So even if there's a difficult conversation that needs to take, it shouldn't take place in a way that dehumanizes people, humiliates people, make people feel small, dumb, stupid, right? So even if we disagree also, even if I have to give a difficult feedback, how do I want to do it, That in the end of the day, I need to tell you the truth, but I do it in a way that doesn't destroy you, and make you feel less than human, right? So I think there is a balance there. And certainly I think in Christianity that's that truth in love and that principle. But these in theory, in the model, are 5 things that we can do in whatever context of leadership to build a culture that is healthy, mature, and where we can start building trust. And as I mentioned, when the trust is there, look, I promise you things are not going to be the same. Whether it's in your family, right? So I hold to the same thing with my children, my children. How do I exercise leadership in the family, or in society, or in my company, or in my ministry and church? Not easy, any of these 5 are not easy. But it certainly will make a difference, right? I hope some of that is helpful, and let's have our Q&A. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Goh, for that really excellent talk. We're going to come into a time of Q&A. We have the first question already.
Good evening, Doctor. My name is Alex. Very quick. In the past, I've been offered many big positions like your positions in the past, the managing director of many companies. I've always turned it down after taking advice from people who have been very successful. I've always turned it down for a lot of reasons. So now my question is, what are the challenges that you have faced when you actually really take up that particular big role that was given to you? Because I have never taken up any of these big roles before, but all the advice that I've got is pretty practical. Because there were two questions that was thrown to me before taking up this high position that was given to me. I've been offered another position, a high position right now, but I also turned it down. 2 questions we are asked. How do you work with wicked people, number 1? And number 2. And the second one was, how do you work with unbelievers? Especially because these are the 2 challenging ones, because the unbelievers, they will definitely, like a snake, they will, because they do not share the same principles as like
so maybe I give a few general principles, right? So I think one is maybe a good principle to start off with is acknowledging all of us, including myself, are imperfect. And therefore, if I embrace the fact that I make mistakes as a leader at any level, there are going to be times where I make the wrong decision, ethically, morally, And the fact that I'm a believer doesn't change the fact that I will fall at times, as much as we try, right? Because we are, look, I'm still a sinner saved by grace. I think that helps address some of the other things, which is, I don't expect perfection from others because I know I'm not perfect myself. I think that's number 1. And number 2, we are called to be a blessing, whoever we are out there. Like I say, if my modus operandi, the intention is I'm there to help people, and it's not that, okay, I'm looking for this perfect company where everybody is perfect and we all are, always morally, ethically upright, because I can tell you, I keep looking, there's no company in the world like that. And by the way, that includes religious companies as well. Say that they are, 100%, because look, on this side of heaven, my friend, all of us are still sinners saved by grace. There are a lot of companies that say they are faith-based and all of that who have fallen huge heights. I think the moment we say, look, it's not about me trying to find the perfect circumstance, the perfect job, the perfect organization. That's not the goal. The goal is we live in an imperfect world and I'm not a perfect person myself. And in that context, with grace, compassion, and love, how do I, with the grace of God and the strength of God, be a blessing to other people amidst the imperfection? I think then, firstly, you're a lot more compassionate to yourself as well as other people. But good question, and in the end of the day, as I say, once you embrace the fact that we are fallen and we are saved by grace, then we tend to be more gracious towards other people as well.
Excellent. So we're all flawed human beings in need of grace, and therefore we extend grace towards others as well. So very popular, I want no question.
I want to ask one question that many of us like this. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust anyone. See, I told you don't trust anyone. This year, when people betray your trust. You look at the Malaysian politics, they don't trust anyone. You cannot trust anyone. I also went through a few interviews. They give me the impression, okay, look, I tell you, you cannot trust anyone. That's what they give me the impression. You cannot trust anyone. When I go through a few interviews, you give me the impression you cannot trust anyone. So how will you I don't trust anyone. This is a very common thing. You shouldn't trust anyone. See, you trust anyone, that's what happened to you. So I told you already, you don't trust. Why you trust people? You trust people, that's what happened to you. Your trust is betrayed. So,
well, I mean, that's an interesting question. Maybe that's a different topic of do we trust other people or not? To what extent? Right? They talk about being shrewd as snakes. As in, the how we relate to other people is also coupled with the wisdom the Holy Spirit gives us. But look, I think really today's focus was not so much about whether I can trust other people, but more about how do I act in a way that is moral, that is compassionate, so that I develop other people's trust in me, in spite of my faults and imperfections. So I think it's a good question. I honestly don't really have, model answer for that. We live in a world where people will betray trust. Family members, friends, society, and once again, I come back to the first question the first brother asked, which is, that's because we live in a world that is imperfect. And in imperfection, as people who can fall, and can regress, and can make mistakes, and can be selfish, there always is a risk to trusting people. But maybe I ask us to reflect, whether that risk is worth taking is a decision we need to make. In any kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship or a marriage or join a company, immediately there's a risk we take now. There's a vulnerability we have, right? And in vulnerability, you embrace a risk of being hurt. Because the more open I open up my defenses, you can betray trust, you can hurt me, you can, whatever it is. We need to make that decision of whether I'm ready to do that. So I agree, right? All of us have been disappointed, and by the way, we have also disappointed other people, right? So simple answer to that, but I think love is almost an act of faith, and that's why even our relationship with God, sometimes that's what stops us. We need to build that trust in God, and it's not easy to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Goh. I agree with you that willingness to trust and that vulnerability is so important. For those of you young adults and those who are planning for a relationship, that trust and that vulnerability is also important, right? In any relationship. But that's a really good question. I just want to zero in on the psychology of trust in an Asian context. I think a lot of us are raised in Asian households. Maybe some are raised by Thai moms. the type that very performance based, you come home, and you show your report card, you're number 2, and then your mom asks you why you're not number 1. A lot of us a lot of you come from that kind of Asian household where, let's be honest, there's not much autonomy in an Asian household. You're not like in an American household. And so from that background, there are many people that advance to leadership positions. And then we now need to learn about building trust in your team. But how do we practically do that? How do we shift our mindset and allow more empowerment, autonomy, and foster a culture of trust in the team?
That's a loaded question. By the way, I was never number 2 either. I was so far away from him then. My parents never had that problem, right? I was nowhere near number 1. I think there are a couple of things maybe I tease out there. Since we use the parenting analogy, parents, we are always having to balance between when we intervene and when we create space for our children to make mistakes. Let me be very honest, that there's no guidebook that is so easy to read now, right? And you always say, well, the older they get, maybe we give more and more freedom. And so number 1, I want to agree with the premise of your statement, which is, as parents, difficult as it is, we will have to find that balance, simply because, by the way, we do a lot of parenting talks, and in fact, actually, our university is hosting the first parenting team conference, I think in September 8 or something like that, so come along for that. Whole day is just going to be how to parent teens. And one of the issues is, So this is the paradox. So the same parent that says, okay, I don't give you any autonomy, meaning I'm the tiger dad or tiger mom or whatever you want to do, very controlling. Right? Hey, you know what you wear, I decide. Until 15, 16, 17, 18, who you go out with, I decide. Music you listen to, I decide, you know. Everything, what you study, what subjects you take, what, you know, where tuition and all that, I run your life, right? And the same parent, and I'm not pointing fingers because I could be like that as well. The same parent will then 3-4 years later say, hey, see my son and daughter, not independent. What's wrong with them? How come they cannot make decisions when? Then complain, come and talk to the university. See my son, like, cannot wake up also cannot without the mom, you know. They cannot make decisions for themselves. We say, hey, look, this is the bed you made, right, isn't it? If they're not even allowed to choose toothpaste brands, how do you expect them to decide on company to join, what career to work for? I mean, no way, man, alright? Because we say it's progressive, you know, at 5 years old, 10 years old, as they grow up, you have to slowly let go a little bit because independence, decision-making, wisdom and maturity takes practice. Allow them room to practice decision-making, which means making mistakes also. How to use your 10 ringgit pocket money in the weekend. You make the decision, you lose it, right? And you realize that life has consequences and all of these are lessons you learn. So that when you're 22 and 23, you already have learned adult decision-making. That life has consequences. And your parents are not going to be there to clean up after you each time, right? I mean, I've had job interviews and the parents come in with the children running. Or scholarship interviews where I'm saying, hey, what are you doing here? Why is the mom here, alright, in the room? Who am I interviewing for the scholarship? Alright. So I think, look, I'm not making fun because we all have struggles letting go, but I think we all accept the fact that if your goal as a parent, and in the same way as your goal as a leader, is to breed growth and success. Difficult as it is, you have to find a way to let go because it is counterproductive to your goal of successful young adult, which, I mean, I know we all can debate what is success, you know, and it's not just about, you know, going to Oxford or getting the best job in the world or the best university or the highest paying. I mean, we know it's a bit more rounded than that, right? We want them to have a full life. Life in all its fullness, and that means many things. It's not just about money, it's about wellness and looking after themselves and having healthy relationships and having a healthy sense of self and self-esteem and relationship with God and all, that's the whole package. But for them to be adults, to be able to do that, I need to give them space to be able to create that world, right? To be able to live their life. And same thing even with spirituality. So I can't take away their choice of how they want to relate to their God, how they want to think about their religion and their spirituality and their purpose of life. Because the moment I deprive them of that, then they will never be in a position to be able to develop that. And then I create, like I say, my own problem. Then you got the 25-year-old, 27, 28-year-old man-child that is never growing up. And that's largely my fault. So I think as parents, difficult as it is, and as leaders, same thing. So the leaders say, I see all my staff don't know how to make decisions. Yeah, because you never let them. So leadership gap. When the CEO wants to step down and then they complain, nobody is there to succeed. Whose fault is that? You have not developed a culture where people are able to actually grow and develop. Right? So I make the general statement.
So yeah, thank you. So I'm going to go in a little bit more on that. Like if you're a leader and you didn't create an environment where people can speak up, make mistakes and develop. Right, then you mentioned about openness, a culture of openness, and giving constructive feedback, critical feedback in a loving way to your team members, to your staff. How does one do that and promote a psychology of safety, an environment of safety to be able to give candid feedback without it backfiring? And also in the context of more and more Gen Z and millennials in our workforce now, and they are known as the strawberry generation. You know what I mean?
Strawberry, I've never heard.
Strawberry, yeah, okay.
Now first, before I move on, there's one other aspect of your last question I want to address, which is, to me, it's not an East versus West thing. You know, it's not about, you know, whether I'm speaking to an American or European or African or Australasian or Asian audience. What I shared earlier, I think that still holds true. You know, and I don't think, you know, it's about, I need to have a more Western style or Asian style. I mean, look, it's nothing to do with culture. Let me tell you, wherever I've traveled, the same tension exists. I know, we like to say that, but it's not true. Even in Western cultures, the same tension. Parents also are wondering how much freedom to give. So in Western culture, you also have overbearing parents. And same thing in Asian culture, you have those who, the extremes, they don't care what, some of them are not even around, right? Let you do whatever, is permissive parenting versus what. So I would say it's a culture-free issue, right? That you need to help develop this sense of independence and self-efficacy. Okay, so second question, sorry.
The strawberry, or the
Strawberry.
snowflakes.
I mean, look, I have to give, hey, look, like or don't like, awkward or not awkward, have to give. Which means that
Creating a safe environment.
Yeah, I mean, so the safe environment comes about if the motive is established, right? So if the child or the staff feels whatever the short-term pain of hearing negative feedback is, it is couched in the context that as a parent, I love you, right? And even when we disagree, it doesn't change the fact that I love my child. And my children know that that love is unconditional. And in that context, therefore, even when I have to have difficult conversations, they know that the difficult conversation doesn't displace the love. Now, similarly, what I shared about earlier, I'm not sure about love, but if staff feels that, hey, look, I'm here for your benefit, I want you to grow, I want you to succeed, my mission in life is to help you achieve your career goals, your professional goals, your personal goals, then having that difficult conversation is still awkward and difficult. But hopefully, you can take it, right, But look, having said that, it's difficult. Some people will still cry, some people, different people react in a different way, whether it's Gen Zs or whatever generation. So I think that's where the people skills need to be. How do we couch it? How do we, communicate that in a way that is not dehumanizing, that is still very respectful? Part of that is removing emotion from the picture. So don't give that kind of feedback, for example, when you're angry. And I've made that mistake. I'm still making that mistake. So if I'm in a bad mood, that's probably not the time to go and have a constructive feedback conversation with my children or my staff, because I'm going to say something I probably will regret, and I have many times. As recently as last week, I made that mistake. Right? Because when the emotions are hot, you just say first, but don't think first. So sometimes I think one rule of thumb is you have to prepare and be clear about, okay, what is the message I want to give this staff? And it's not about me. It's not because I want to lepaskan geram. I'm just angry and I want to take it out on somebody. I need to be in a place where I feel, okay, let me check my motive. Is this really a legitimate feedback? Is this out of emotion? Is it serving me or serving the person, this feedback? And so I think, once you calm down and all of that, then fine, okay, this needs to be said, then do it. But in a calm state, not when I'm having a really bad day, right, and you postpone the meeting until tomorrow. Honestly, same thing with husband and wife. Never, ever have these difficult conversations when you're not in the right state.
Thanks a lot for that really good tip. Check your emotions before you say something that you might regret later. And Thomas and you too, please feel free to approach Dr. Goh. During after the service and when we have more fellowship time. I'm sure he's very happy to speak to you one-on-one, personal attention. We're very sorry, but we've come to the end of this session of this talk with Dr. Goh, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us, Dr. Goh.